Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another thrilling episode of Pitch Slap. No, that was good. It was a triangle of slaps. And Dan and I are joined once again by Jon Girard. It's excellent to have you here again, my man.
Hooty-hoo!
So we're looking forward to seeing what he's bringing to the table, what he's going to pitch. So, Jon, when you are ready, the microphone is yours.
All right, man. So today I have for you a pretty crazy idea that I had come up with. It is kind of like a thriller, but it goes back to that traditional Stephen King style. Author is the main person type of movie. In this case, you have it's all revolving around a retreat. And it's kind of like a writer's retreat where essentially people get letters in the mail. People have tried to establish this, whether they're noted for self-publishing or what have you. They are sent these letters that say, hey, you've won this special trip to wherever. And you are going to go, off into this writer's retreat and, work on your craft, so to speak. And it's like a free little adventure, or I guess not adventure. It's more like a retreat where you're going and you're taking some time away from society and going to focus on your writing kind of thing. And then so it opens up with in a heavily wooded retreat, rain bouncing off the roof. And then there's a new writer that comes to the camp. So the whole thing, it follows a bunch of different main characters throughout the story. You're going to see different aspects of the camp. You're going to see how everything breaks down. But essentially, people get to this camp, and it's a really interesting camp. And they're a bunch of workshops and different things that allow them to work on their craft, so to speak. They're put into a cabin and just kind of put in solitude so they can write. But you find out that this camp isn't what you think it is. When you come, they kind of do initiation kind of thing where all the new people get together and they go to this party. Everybody drinks something or they ingest something, whether it's the food or drink or what have you, even the water, right? And they all pass out. And then they wake up with these collars on their neck. And they're in the cabin. And they've been given some sort of substance, right? And they have to sit and they have to write, right? And if they refuse to write, the people who are in control of the camp will administer a shock, so it will literally jolt you. So if you refuse to follow the rules or do things like that, they'll give you a kind of a taser shock kind of thing. But then it gets to the point where, depending on how you perform and how you contribute to the camp, determines which section of the camp you go to and what type of drugs that you're going to receive. So everybody's given various types of drugs, whether it's depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, inhalants, all different types of varieties based on their personal body type and stuff like that. But it's all meant to produce writing in different forms of media, whether it be screenplays, poetry, commercials, whatever. Just write and produce. Right? If you don't produce, you're no use, kind of thing. And that'll be kind of a slogan that's used throughout the whole thing. It's if you don't produce, you're no use. And it's almost like a brainwashing scenario. But these different writings and creative works are all going to be used to become the mainstream media. And they'll be used to guide the agenda of the government, so to speak. Right, so it'll all be in this focus. So it's almost like everything that you ingest through the media is written through ghostwriters, but these ghostwriters are tortured individuals taken from society and put into a quasi prison, so to speak. But the better you behave, the nicer drugs you get. So it'll be you know, like, oh, like alcohol or weed or like lighter things. And then like the more you reject the system, the more you become a problem, and the shocks aren't really necessarily going to deal with it, the harder drugs you will receive. So like it gets to the point where you're taking like LSD and adrenochrome and like some crazy gnarly out of this world type stuff to like really blow your mind, but also to make you passive, right? But like have to spark this creative juice, but have to keep you in the loop of like you can't revolt if you're unable to revolt, kind of thing. But if there's some sort of escape, there's like an emergency measure in the collar that it essentially, if it's tampered with or if you try to flee and you leave the grounds, there's like a sensor that will trip, an invisible sensor, so nobody knows where it is. It's just like somewhere encircling the camp. If you trip that sensor, the necklace will like close in on itself. So kind of like a reverse Wild Wild West scenario, where instead of going to cut them off, it's like a cylinder and then the inside like closes. So it literally just like razor blades just and cut their head off, and then and it's like, oh my god. But and essentially it's going to revolve around the whole process of this and the whole dystopia part of it, and like guiding this underbelly of the government. Like top 1% are torturing, you know, those to create what they want to create and subjugate the masses. And like everything you see on television, whether it's, like I said, TV, commercials, the Super Bowl, podcasts, stand-up comedians, all these works are being pulled from these creative individuals, right? But it's all going to revolve through different perspectives, so you get the whole view of the camp as opposed to just one person's point of view. So it's not like they're just fucked up, so they don't know what's going on. Like you're going to see people who've been there for a short period of time, who just got there or have been there for years and years and years, like, you know, that kind of thing. But it's all going to lead up to a riot and revolt and a breakout. Like finding out how to like break the sensors, find the sensors, and be able to make it to safety. And so like they revolt and they break out of this camp and they do all that, and then they're all rounded up. And there's like one survivor left, and he's rounded up and put back in another camp.
Wow.
And that's the movie.
That's pretty wild. I mean, you started off saying it was pretty wild.
It's crazy. It like came to me in like this explosion. I was reading Stephen King's On Writing, and it talks about like, oh, you can go to like a writer's retreat, but like they're kind of like a crock of crap, so to speak. And it's like, okay, wouldn't it be crazy if a writer like went somewhere and like was held captive and like couldn't leave, and then like was forced to do all this? It would be kind of crazy. And at one point, I almost thought of separating them into 3 camps and having like the heaven camp, which is like the good camp. It's like like I said, like the nicer, like more mellow things. Like the bad camp would be hell, the hell camp, or whatever nomenclature you could put with that. And then like the medium, like for the new arrivals, would be purgatory, to determine where you should be sorted. Like whether you're going to be an issue and need to be highly sedated and to the point where you're like almost unconscious, or the camp where you're going to work go along with this program, kind of thing.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
No, it's well thought out, especially the world you're building. And I guess one of the first questions I had for you, was it one camp, or was it there are multiple camps, but you just broke it down as there's 3 camps. So are the settings different though, John? Like is one camp like tropical, one's country, and one's like a city urban-esque, or?
No, so like the like there can be multiple camps. Like this might not be the only one in existence, right? But this one particular camp is split up into 3 sections, like 3 cohorts almost, right? Like the new arrivals come into this one spot, they're like evaluated and going through like all this like meet and greet. Like it looks really peaceful and nice, and they kind of lure you in with kindness, kind of thing. And they're like, oh yeah, now we're gonna have this feast, and everybody sits down, they all eat, but you don't realize all the people like in like almost like a Mortal Kombat Arrival type situation, right? They all sit down and have this huge feast, and like not necessarily a display of like action, but maybe have the stuff roofie. And then like a speaker, like there's like a desk and like paper and a pen or a pencil and like or maybe even a typewriter or something like that where you can physically manually get your ideas down, but there's like a camera and a speaker and your bed, and that's it. Like, and they just tell you instructions. If you don't follow the instructions, like, you know, too fucking bad kind of thing.
So you get the bare necessities, and then it's kind of like meet and greet and deciding who's who and what's what when you get there.
Yeah, so like you get like they'll get like an hour on the yard kind of thing where they're like, if you're in that heaven camp, you get more time where you can socialize with other people within the camp, and have some sort of like mental break, so to speak. But then you're ushered like almost immediately back into your cabin, like early to bed, early to rise kind of thing.
Got you. No, it makes sense. Some of you mentioned multiple characters, right? Do you already have it like kind of mapped out, like how many would be multiple, and then are some of them like have they been in the camps long? Are they new? Are some of the characters like from the perspective of the bad guy, like the puppet, the guys behind the shadows?
So I want that part to be really vague. I really want it to be like that's its own thing, and have them be like this man behind the shadows kind of figure, right? They're all wearing like face covering, like it's like just a facial mask where you can't really tell any features. They're all wearing like Jabberwocky masks, or you know what I'm saying. But then at the same time, I do want different perspectives of the people within the camp. Like, so you'll have those interactions with those individuals. Like, they're obviously going to be there, like, bossing people around. But you're not going to see through their eyes. You're going to see through the writer's various eyes. So, like, people who, again, I want to do the arrival thing with a character and maybe develop that person. Also do somebody who's been there for ages, like, longer than anybody else has been at the camp. Or maybe somebody who talks to that person, or somebody who's been there for a while. I definitely want to see both the heaven and the hell camp. Maybe like have one character, you know, start in the heaven camp and then progress his way into the hell camp after doing something wrong or what have you. You know what I mean? Like really disobeying the rules and inciting violence or whatever it may be. You know, and have him thrown in there and be like, and see you that way you see all aspects of the camp. But then again, have it break out to the point where it's like a riot and you see all these characters and most of them die. Like all these people that you've grown accustomed to and grown close to die, and you're left with like probably the worst choice. Like a final girl, except like the worst final girl ever. You know what I mean? Like some of you are like, oh really? She made it? Are you kidding me?
I got you.
And then have her like snatched up and you know sent off to another camp. Like maybe not even show the sending to a camp, but show like getting picked up by the guys in the masks. And you kind of put two and two. You're like, oh well, opening for another one.
Gotcha. Okay. No, very cool. Right on. So it's like realistically, there's no hope. There's no escape. There's just like,
It's the government. There is no escape.
wild. Just yeah, that's I think sums it up pretty good. Dan, what about you? What are you thinking, man?
Yeah, no, I guess I was wondering like what tone you wanted to like strike for this piece. Like it sounds like it has a lot of violent scary elements to it, but it also feels a little bit like a satire. So I was wondering if like that's something like you wanted to
kind of Purge feel to it, where it's almost like a poke like a satire upon our own government, and like I want to make it like scary, but I also want to make it like this could be happening, like have some of the stuff that they produce, and you get to like sample some of it, and it's like some of the stuff that we heard, like don't stop believe, and then be like, oh my god, like what if that was actually like not written by Journey, or what if all these things I've heard, whether Britney Spears, NSYNC, all this other stuff has been like force fed to me. What if all the Geico commercials are just subliminal messages that are like brainwashing me slowly into submission?
That's actually something that might be interesting to explore. Also, is I think anybody watching this, or even reading your script, would probably like, it sounds like that's sort of what you're hoping for them to like think about. But maybe if we can get like a cut to like the real world, like you actually see like the writer write something, produce something, it gets produced for the media, and then you get to see it being consumed, and it being like packaged in a certain way. I think if you see like the effects, the level of distortion it goes through, it might be an effective way of showcasing what you're going for.
Like having a montage almost of like the process, right? And have it like I don't know if you remember Lord of War. Have you seen that? With Nicolas Cage?
I'm sure Stefan has.
Oh, so it's fantastic. Well, the beginning scene of that like is the point of view of a bullet, and the bullets like gets processed, and it gets made, and then it gets sold in Russia, and like then ends up in Africa, gets dumped on the ground, and like the different bullets are getting loaded. It gets loaded into a gun and gets stuffed down into the chamber, and then it gets cocked in, and then boom, 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 and then you see its point of view through the barrel, and then you see it shoot out of the barrel, and then shoot like a little kid in the face. And it was like, that's kind of what I pictured when you were saying that, like having that process, maybe not in the beginning to like give it completely away off the cuff, but like during the middle, or maybe even the ending of it, just like you see that progression, like, oh, this media, and then it travels on a bus to some studio, and it's given to a pop artist, and they start singing in the sound room, and then it goes boom, music video on TV of that same song, and then it goes like almost back to the original writer, and like him in his cabin like humming the song, right. And it's like, oh, boom.
Yeah, no, especially like you could even have it like where you said someone who's been there a long time explaining the process to like some new guy. Like it's like, oh, you think the New York Times bestseller list is something to strive for? Well, let me tell you what that's really about, and then
it's a satanic Craigslist.
Yeah.
You circle all the fifth letters, it puts a message.
So I have a question, John. I guess I'm wondering at like the scope that you're going for, like the governmental scope, the scope of the media. Like, when you say the government, do you mean like the U.S. government? Is it more?
I mean, it definitely could be like that. That definitely could be a factor, or like a UK government type situation. I mean, like if it would be easy to film if it was the US government, because we wouldn't need to go and get a bunch of people who have like an English accent or another accent. that would make it, a little more streamlined. But it could apply to anywhere. And I think, like, it even makes sense to, I had a note whether, they're in the deep wilderness, in the woods, in, like, the middle of nowhere, Kansas, or, or maybe in a foreign country. Like, they get a plane ticket to Brazil and they freaking disappear like Jim Jones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, some craziness.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. For me, looking at this, I guess I'm also wondering, like, the scope of the media. So when you say that, like, media is, like, pretty expansive, you got like TV,
pop culture,
yeah,
think Rupert Murdoch on steroids,
okay.
like the finger in everything, like all the music you hear, the commercials you see on TV, the movies you watch, the TV shows, like everything.
Yeah, as like an origin story for this, like, maybe you could think of it like having started small and like a small pocket of media, like maybe it just started with like the music scene, like the pop music or something, you know what I mean, like the Journey song, and then it like expanded outwards into other forms of it. I'm just thinking in terms of like
it starts in the 80s.
It has to start somewhere, right?
Reagan's like, oh, I'll show you crack. How about this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the scope of this is important in making sure, like, if you root it into something smaller and it, like, growing into something, I think that could be interesting. So
yeah. I want to more focus on the like I love that idea as a prequel, like writing another story that kind of shows this progression, but also like more so focus on the riot and like having almost no hope for these people, like getting almost suckered into things, and also having the realization like, well, the people in this camp are not the only ones that are slaves, like we all are, kind of thing, but like show that there's no escape from this subjugation, but more clearly seeing it within the camp itself.
Yeah.
I feel like you could also have like that kind of thing you just talked about, how we're all kind of slaves. Like if you give I feel like you could write a really good monologue, because you have written really good monologues, but especially with that in mind, like where some guys like, look it, you've been on the outside, now you're on the inside. You got to ask yourself, is it better to know what's in the sauce or to be the one who's just drinking it? That's what you choose. Either way, you're still part of the wheel. Like
blue pill, red pill, like, like is it better to be awake and know that you're a slave, or asleep and think that everything's fine?
Exactly.
Like ignorance is almost bliss at that point.
So I feel like you have a lot of really good topics that you could have like set characters deliver really, really juicy monologues in, and it's like, wow, because I think you're also trying to get not only commentary, but like try to get your audience thinking more. Like I know in past conversations you've mentioned like Jim Carrey talking about like the Illuminati and how they're in show business. And while most people would laugh, like people did laugh at Jim Carrey, I'm sure there is some truth to like a higher ring of people who pull some strings. So it seems like that's kind of like, yeah, this stuff can happen. It is out there, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So, no, it seems like you got a lot of really cool facets you're pulling in and theories that you are in favor of or think about, and it's all off-the-wall stuff that probably gets overlooked that, will be entertaining in this medium.
Yeah. It's and it's cool too, because like all the characters that you're gonna interact with, like besides the guy who's going to the camp in the very beginning, like he's the only one that's a reliable narrator, but only until he does that first night in the camp, and then he becomes an unreliable narrator, as with everyone else in the camp, because they're all under the influence of like heavy drugs. I mean, we're talking the spectrum. So you right away, like they'll be spewing this great knowledge and hitting you with some craziness, and you're gonna be like, wow. But then you're gonna think, can I really trust them? Like they are well under the influence, and they are talking like a crazy person right now. Like it's almost to the effect of like how American History X affected people. Like it threw them over the edge so much, and they were like, wow, that's really a lot. That's really a lot. But it's what scares me the most is how some of those arguments I agree with. And then you catch yourself and you're like, wow. Like the Rodney King thing. Like you know, a lot of people believe one way or the other, but like catching yourself in that thing and being like, wow, I believe everything that this racist just said to be true, except I know racism is wrong. Right, so you catch yourself like that, and I think I like that aspect where you're like, oh wow, these are really intellectual individuals, but at the same time, it's like, how can I possibly trust them?
Yeah, no, it raises a lot of moral questions as well. Yeah, wild and controversial, man. That's where this seems like it is. Very cool.
That's my thing.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, when you said The Purge, like I'm getting like high concept, you know, like that's a high concept movie, and I'm getting like that kind of feel for this one too. Also, like a little bit of like Cabin in the Woods, like the most recent movie, like it kind of feels like that, where it's like the wall is sort of like, you know, you see beyond the walls, and that there's a bigger machine involved. So, it's just something I was thinking of. So
yeah, for sure.
Also, like Gonzo, man, like that dude.
Yeah, Hunter S. Thompson and him, like his process of taking a ton of drugs and then like, you know, waking up, you know, doing lines, drinking, like smoking, taking pills, doing more lines, like, and then repeating that process until 12 o'clock at night. And now I'm ready to write.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Like it's an odyssey in its own way.
Took a couple times.
Honestly, I'm just making. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, no, I'm sad to say I'm just making the connection. You started off saying like you were inspired by reading something from Stephen King, you know, on writing, and like these writers are like literally like on drugs, like just producing things like crazy, and I'm like, wow, that's just like Stephen King. It's like, no, duh, Dan. Like,
like Misery is all about his addiction to alcoholism and like, you know, his deep issues and all that kind of stuff, and him like having to like separate himself from that, but it's physically holding him there like against his will.
Yeah. It was like I didn't make the connection until just now, and I feel I'm like, where do the drugs come from? I mean, they serve a plot device, but then, you know, I'm like, oh, Stephen King, you know. So I don't know if that was the source of the drug thing, but
and you know, that's a common thing. All like, you know, it's that joke, all authors are alcoholics or drug addicts kind of thing. And I wanted to make a play on that and be like, maybe it's because they're force fed.
Yeah, everyone has their vice that keeps them going or get them creative, one way or the other.
Yeah,
I got you.
You know, some people it's pixie sticks, like, you know.
For sure.
Wild. Well, either way, now, I guess in closing, my friend, do you have any final thoughts, comments, or?
This is one of the rougher ones that I kind of, you know, had like a brain explosion and was like, I need to write this down. Like I ran to Stefan as soon as I thought of this. I was like, this movie, and like he was like, oh my god, you need to write that. And so as soon as I'm, you know, put some more ducks in a row, I definitely want to get into writing this out and like really developing it, you know, whether taking it in the screenplay route or the a novel. I think it would serve either. Like it would be super visually pleasing, and you could have a lot of moments like, you know, where you can see the really horrible effects of these various drugs are, or, you know, see how people truly react when they're on these drugs, because that's a thing. Like movies portray it in a way that like either minimizes or maximizes it, and I want people to realize like, okay, like these things are bad, like, but also not necessarily what they're made out to be. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like oxymoron almost, but it'll be interesting to like display the truth.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think you came in, with huge concepts. My only thing is like keep writing it. You know what I mean? Like keep writing it. I think you'll find out like how you want to say it while you're writing it. And in the editing phase. So like keep going, buddy. You got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got a playground to build in, man. Just keep building.
Oh yeah, and especially since like most of my other stuff, put to the side, this is the next thing on the chopping block. So.
Right on, man.
Awesome.
Well, it's also cool that you got other things lined up waiting to be on that block. So kudos to you, pal. That's really awesome.
Thank you. As part of my like writing process, I always have to have like 4 projects going at once. So if I get writer's block, I just move to the next one.
No, that's
a good strategy.
Nice. All right, well, fantastic. Well, Jon, please keep us posted on I guess real quick, is it titled yet or is it untitled at the moment?
It is untitled. I threw Retreat up there as like a possibly maybe. It's a little bland. It's a little meh. I kind of want to see where it goes, but I like the simplicity of like the one word title. And I think that'll work in this situation where it leaves it very ambiguous. So you're like, oh, Retreat, this should be fun. I originally wrote Writer's Retreat, but I felt that was a bit wordy. So I feel like Retreat could be like not only a retreat like from life, but a retreat from oneself. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot tied into that one word. Not only, and I also think like retreat as in like running away. You know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think there's a
not
lot
having the ability to.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, sounds fitting.
It's short, simple, to the point, and you can take it how you think you see it. So right on. So please keep us posted on how Retreat comes. I know I and Dan are both eager to hear how it ends and what happens in the middle, and I'm sure all of you watching are eager as well. So until next time, this has been Pitch Slap. I like that sound right there. That was... Yeah, someone got the business. All right.
That was all Jon.
We will see you next time.